What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Pokemon Masters EX video. My name is Charlie. Today, we're going to check out Phoebe and DUSKNOIR's best 1 out of 5 through 5 out of 5 sync grid builds, team builds, recommended team builds. Who does Phoebe and DUSKNOIR work well with? Lucky skills. There's actually a few choices for lucky skills. Yeah, and you know, going with the team builds, who has the best sort of theme skills to go along with Phoebe and DUSKNOIR. Alright, so let's get into it. Phoebe and DUSKNOIR are a support type. They're ghost, and they're weak to dark type attacks. If we scroll down, we can see their stats. You know, kind of okay. They used to be a really good tank. Now there are better tanks in the game. But for the sync grid helps a bit, especially as a kind of like as a decent attack unit now as well, with getting a couple of steadfast 3s. Really does help out this unit's viability and variety in use. So if we look at the HP, it's 555, physical attack is 215, physical defense 249. So it makes it the 9th tankiest physical defense in the game. Special defense of 250, which makes it the 10th tankiest special defender in the game. So already it's still viable as a tank, but its moveset and its support ability makes it more valuable when it's later on in the match instead of early on in the match. And we'll get into that when we head down to the moveset. So moves, you got Shadow Punch. It's a 2 move gauge cost. Sure hit, never misses, so if you have Critical Strike 2, you'll always be using critical hits. So that's something to keep in mind for later on. We'll touch on that when we get to the lucky skills towards the end of this part. Dire Hit All, which sharply raises the critical hit rate of all allied sync pairs, so really good there. Now this is what I mean earlier. Unbreakable Bonds, the lower the user's HP is, the more the move increases. This move increases the move gauges and raises the attack of all allied sync pairs. So you can see right here, if you have 100% of HP remaining, it's only going to increase the move gauge by 1 and increase your ally's attack by 1. Nothing crazy. But if you're down to 33% health, you're going to raise the attack by 4 and the move gauge by 3. And you have 2 uses of that. So, like I was saying earlier, later on in the match when you've taken some damage, you've taken some hits, and you're down to 33%, like 50% to 33% health, that's when you use both your Unbreakable Bonds, increase your striker's attack, or your attack if you're the striker, yeah, you're going to do a lot more damage that way. And it'll increase your move gauge, so you'll be able to do those attacks. Speaking of attacks, it's got Double Edge. The user also takes 25% of the damage dealt to the target. This can be kind of devastating if you don't have the steadfast 5s, or steadfast nodes. Phoebe doesn't have steadfast 5, it's got 2 steadfast 3s, so you'll have steadfast 6 overall. So not the greatest out of all the sync pairs out there, like Hilbert and Mightyena is a good one. Zebstrike is another one that's got decent steadfast abilities. Sync nodes. And speaking of syncs, we got the sync move here. It's a ghost type physical strike attack. Does 250 to 300 power depending on how powered up it is against a single opponent. And because she is a support, when her EX comes out, you will not be able to do an AoE sync move because she's a support. I think like the stats raised after she becomes she does a sync move increase, so that would actually help out with Unbreakable Bonds and raising that HP up, or that attack up. So that's something to think about. Now, passive skills. Pass It On transfers half of the amount of the sync pair's raised stats to the sync pair that will switch in when this sync pair faints. So this is mainly useful for like co-op. If you're doing like the single player co-op on the Battle Villa stages, or if we ever really get back into co-op events and battles and stuff like that, it'll be more useful for that. And it comes with Vigilance, so it's already protected against critical hits. So for your lucky skill, you don't need to focus on getting Vigilance because it already has it. Let me pull up my list over here. Some of the lucky skills that I would recommend, of course, if you're doing a Striker build, Critical Strike 2, you could also do Enlightenment 9, which if any stat is reduced, it mitigates the reduction of that stat. So that covers all the stats, evasiveness, HP, all that stuff. You could also do Headstrong, so your attack can't be lowered. Unbending and Stalwart, which make sure that the defense or special defense, respectively, won't be lowered, which pretty good for a support build. You could also even do other things like Antitoxin to make sure it doesn't get poisoned. Depending on who you're going up against, I would probably recommend like Unflappable, so that way you're not getting flinched, because flinching and clear-headed, so you're not getting confused, are some of the more common, especially flinching. I would probably go for Unflappable over clear-headed when it comes to like legendary events, stuff like that, and legendary arenas. But you could also counter or improve its defenses against its own weakness, so Dark type. You could get, with the Chewy Lucky Cookies, you can do a Dark Guard, which reduces damage from Dark type moves. Very interesting. Now, what team builds would I recommend for Phoebe and DUSKNOIR? Well, I would recommend putting them on teams with Ghost type strikers, so that way you're in effect helping them out with their abilities. So Morty and Driftblim and Acerola, Halloween Acerola with Mimikyu would probably be the two best ones. And you'll get some, because Phoebe's got Elite 4, Hoenn, and Ghost type theme skills. So obviously you're going to get the Ghost type there. If you wanted to get the Elite 4, you would use Acerola with Palisand, and you could even put whatchamacallit, Sand Shelter on DUSKNOIR, put her on the Sandstorm team with Cynthia and Garchomp, and that way you're increasing Garchomp's attack. So that could be another really good team build for it. And you're also going to be hitting Elite 4. I can't remember. I think Cynthia is Elite 4 as well, so it'll hit all those. It'll hit Ghost and Elite 4 with Acerola, and it'll hit Elite 4 with Cynthia, I believe. Those are the only ones that they have in common. But don't hold me to the fire. I haven't checked that yet. But yeah, it would be a really good idea to use Sand Shelter, Lucky Skill for a Sandstorm team with Cynthia and Acerola, and Phoebe and DUSKNOIR. Alright, so, and any other physical striker, like a really good physical striker, would be really helpful with DUSKNOIR's ability for raising the defense, or the attack, and move gauge. So just something to consider there. Alright, so we'll move on to the sync grids. Of course, the 1 out of 5 synchro is pretty easy to showcase. We're getting all these things. So, Unbreakable Bonds, MP refresh, Dire Hit, all MP refresh, Shadow Punch, move gauge refresh, and we grab the double edge +3s over here. And if you want to do a double edge build, it's that easy. Just switch from Shadow Punch, move gauge refresh to the double edge, move gauge refresh. Alright, move on to the next one. Now this is the first 2 out of 5 build for Phoebe and DUSKNOIR. This one's a straight up like support tank build. We're grabbing all the defense, special defense that we can get. We're grabbing the 2 Shadow Punch move gauge refresh 3s. So that way we can help our striker get to their sync move as quickly as possible. We have Natural Remedy. So once per battle removes all status conditions from the user when the user is inflicted by a status condition. So that's really useful. I love seeing supports with those. We don't really need Unbreakable Bonds Inspire Ire because it just makes your opponents target you for a short time, which, depending on your tactics, I would usually have Phoebe and DUSKNOIR as number 1 in the tactics, just to be able to take use of their Unbreakable Bonds that much quicker in the battle, as quickly as we can, you know, depending on how long the battle lasts. And then having a good healer to heal them up once we get those Unbreakable Bonds out of the way, and they can just keep tanking. But yeah, we're just grabbing, you know, defense +10, all the defense, special defense that we can get for 2 out of 5. Moving on. This one's a double edge build for 2 out of 5. We're grabbing the Dire Hit All Plus, MP Refresh, the Universal or Unbreakable Bonds, MP Refresh, Natural Remedy, Double Edge, Move Gauge Refresh, and that one Stand Fast 3, which it's decent, but having both of them is better. We are getting the Speed +20, so that way we're getting a faster Move Gauge Refresh, because it is usually based on the amount of speed you have, the faster the move gauge will refresh. The slower you are, the slower the move gauge will refresh. And just grabbing some defense and special defense. Moving on. This is the Shadow Punch 2 out of 5 build. Again, Natural Remedy, Dire Hit All Plus, grabbing some extra speed, all the attack nodes that we can grab. Went up here to get the Shadow Punch +4 to the defense +10 instead of grabbing the Unbreakable Bonds, because we're more focused on dealing damage than receiving damage. Like, with the reason why we had it with Double Edge earlier was because Double Edge is going to lower your health. Understandable to use Unbreakable Bonds in that situation because you're already lowering your health to that point that much faster. And then you would use a healer to heal yourself up and continue doing Double Edge. This is a little bit different. This will actually help you get to your sync move faster with these. The Shadow Punch move gauge refreshes stack, so it's Shadow Punch move gauge refresh 6. You have both of them, so it's not too bad. Empowering up Shadow Punch as much as possible to deal that much more damage. Moving on. So we've got the first 3 out of 5 build. This is a tank build slash get us to the sync move support type of a build. So we've got both of the Shadow Punch move gauge refreshes, but we also have Shadow Punch Critical Fortification 6. This has a great chance of raising the user's defense when the user lands a critical hit. So obviously you'd want probably Critical Strike 2 with this one as a lucky skill, just to, you know, help you get those critical hits powered up when you're hitting them, and increasing your defenses while you're doing it. We're also increasing our special defense by 20, physical defense by 10, and more physical and special defense in the bottom right-hand corner. So not too bad. Not so much worried about dealing damage with that one. More about increasing the defense for us to have us tank as much as possible. Here's another possible build. You're using... Hang on a sec, come back up. We're using Team Toughen Up 4, so there's a good chance of raising the defense of all allied sync pairs when the user is hit by an attack move. So we see this with Cygnus Suit Blue and Blastoise. When you get hit, you're have a good chance of raising the defense of all allied sync pairs. Really good for going up against physical striker opponents. Not so much special striker opponents, because you're not raising the special defense, you're raising physical defense, so make sure you keep that in mind. We're using universal bonds because, you know, obviously we're doing making sure that we're getting hit with this one, and we're increasing our special defense and our defense by 20 and by 10 respectively in the upper left hand corner there. Natural Remedy, and grabbing more special defense so that we can tank special defense hits. But if you wanted to do physical hits, I would just do that. But I would keep that special defense plus 20 just in case. But if you know you're going up against physical strikers, a team of physical strikers that aren't going to use any special defense attacks, or special attacks, you don't need to worry about your special defense. What I would do at this point would be to increase attack and get the Shadow Punch move gauge refresh. So that way you're not taking up as much move gauge when you're trying to get to your sync move even faster. Just something to consider, guys. Something to consider. Remember, these are all just suggestions. You can take any of these templates that I'm putting forth and do your own thing, put your own spin on them. Alright, next up, we have the, this is a Shadow Punch. It's like raising your defense and the defense of your entire team. So we're combining essentially the last two. Team Toughen Up build with the Shadow Punch Critical Fortification 6 build. And we went over using our sync grid, or sync move node, to get this special defense plus 20. Depends on, as just like a general purpose build. Again, if you're not going up against opponents that have special attacks, I would just take away that special defense and that sync node, and I would just go boom, 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 and probably go for, with the last three, some extra speed or HP. You could do either one, just like that. So there you go, a couple extra little variations there for this one. Moving on. Alright, so this one is the Shadow Punch build out for a 3 out of 5 build. Again, we got Natural Remedy, Shadow Punch Critical Fortification 6, and the Shadow Punch move gauge refreshes, Dire Hit All Plus, MP refresh, grabbing speed, and all the attack notes that we can get, and increasing our Shadow Punch by 4 with the remaining energy that we have, just so that we're not wasting anything. Pretty straightforward. You're just doing straight up Shadow Punch attacks. I would recommend Critical Strike 2 for that build, by the way. Alright, for this one, this is the Double Edge 3 out of 5 build. This one is pretty good because we're using both of the Standfast 3s. Reduces recoil damage received from moves that have recoil in the effect tag, so Double Edge essentially. We're increasing Double Edge's attack as much as we possibly can by getting all the attack nodes plus the Double Edge plus 3 nodes that we can get. Increasing our HP as much as we can with that HP plus 30 in the upper right hand corner, HP plus 10 in the upper left hand corner, and increasing our speed a little bit with the extra 3 remaining energy, but there's no like 3s that we can get other than like a, Shadow Punch, but we're not going for Shadow Punch with this one. So yeah, this one you're gonna want, for this particular build, you're gonna want Dusknoir in the 3rd tactic spot, so the very last one, so you're not taking any damage. But you are going to make use of those unbreakable bonds once your health does get down to a certain point. Then you're going to want to heal yourself with Skyline Swanna or Pikachu, depending on who your Potion Master, your healer, is for that particular battle. But yeah, this would be a very, very strong physical striker attack for Phoebe and Dusknoir. Alright, and last but not least, we have a Sync Bomb, Sync Nuke build, however you want us to say it. In the upper left-hand corner, we have Sync Energy 5, powers up Sync moves in a pinch. So in a pinch means when your health is really low, I think it's like 33% or less. So we're assuming that we're going to be taking some damage here. We're also using the Shadow Punch move gauge refreshes to get to our sync move as quickly as possible while keeping as much move gauge as we possibly can. And we're increasing our speed, our special defense, our defense, trying to be as tanky as we possibly can. So yeah, not too bad, guys, not too bad. Overall, I think it's a decent build, a decent sync grid for Phoebe and Dusknoir. Getting those standfast 3s really does help for Double Edge. Of course, having, you know, Dire Hit All plus MP Refresh and a Unbreakable Bonds MP Refresh really does help out as well. Natural Remedy is really great for making sure that you're not going to just get poisoned and die, essentially. Or be paralyzed and not be able to attack, all that sort of fun stuff. And I really do love the Team Toughen Up 4 and the Shadow Punch Critical Fortification 6, increasing your defenses, increasing the team's defenses. What we didn't cover was the On the Ropes 3. Reduces damage when the Pokemon is hit by a physical attack move. You could throw that in if you know that your opponents are only using physical attacks. That's not going to do anything for you if it's a special attack. Just letting you know. And there's, of course, Power Reserves 3, which powers up moves in a pinch, but by that point you don't want to use like a Double Edge because you'll probably just faint yourself. But I digress. Alright guys, let me know what sync grids you're probably going to use for Phoebe and Dusknoir. What teams are you going to use for Phoebe and Dusknoir? Let me know down in the comment section below. Make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe if you have not already so you never miss out on any of my daily Pokemon Masters EX content. I'll see you guys in the next video. Later, guys.